Hey everybody, welcome to Harmon Garage. I'm Aaron, and it's another wonderful day. I want to thank you guys for coming through on the comments in the last video. It's awesome. I got more comments on that video than I've ever gotten on a video. And at the end of this video, I'm going to announce who won the t-shirt, but we're going to do it again. So whoever wins the t-shirt from the last video won't be eligible to win the t-shirt again, because I don't want, you know, the random thing to give the same person a bunch of t-shirts or whatever. But we're gonna do the same thing again. If you leave a comment, you're subscribed to the channel, and you hit the like button, you'll be entered for a chance to win a t-shirt, and we'll do it all the same way. But so leave a comment and a like on this video to enter for a chance to win, and the winner from the last video will be announced at the end of this video. Hope I'm not confusing you guys, because I'm confusing myself. Anyways, today's project is going to be on Waldo. So this isn't really hey, this is the order that it needs to be done in, but it's something else the owner wants me to do to it. And I've got another big project I want to get started on, and this is kind of fill-in work while I wait for parts and stuff like that for right now. So I'm going to just spend a day or two here, which I always say a day or two, it'll probably end up taking me all week, but I'm going to spend a day or two here, and we're going to fix these doors. We want to keep the same doors because we want to keep the paint scheme and the patina, but he wants to put the West Coast style mirrors back on here, which we have a set, but this door's all blown out. It's got a whole bunch of extra holes in it. This door over here, kind of all blown out. It's gonna have a couple extra holes in it. So this truck is hard to move, especially by myself. So rather than trying to get it up on the apron, it's been raining here like every day for 2 weeks, but rather than trying to get the truck up on the apron where I can work on it with the doors on the truck, what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna take the doors off and bring them over here on the apron, and we'll work on them. So we're gonna fix the doors. We'll get some West Coast style mirrors on them, and we'll see how it turns out. We got the doors off, got them brought up here where we can work on them. First thing I need to do is go through and pull off window cranks, door panels. That side's missing the armrest, this one has it. But I need to get the door panels and everything associated with the door panels pulled off the inside of the doors, because I'm gonna have to roll the windows back up, and I'm gonna have to be able to work from the inside and the outside of the door at the same time. So I'm gonna get screwdriver over here, get set up, and we'll get the door panels pulled off. And once I get that done, I got to figure out something that I can kind of use these. I don't want to use my body stands. I might use my body stands, I don't know. I got to figure out a way to set these doors up to where I can work on them. I'll do one at a time, where I can work on them without it being a pain in my butt. I don't want to have to be sitting there holding them while I'm trying to grind on them or weld on them or anything like that. So we're gonna get the door panels and stuff stripped off and start getting ready for the repairs. Okay, I figured I'd just go over this real quick for anybody that hasn't done it before or maybe is wondering how to do it. So we're just gonna pull this door panel real quick. Lock knob. Just unscrews, set it to the side. Now on your window crank, depending if it's been taken apart before or not, there's your crank, and then there's a plastic sleeve in there, and then there's the door panel. Well, you have to go in between the crank and the plastic sleeve with a pick or something, and there's a clip in there. I'll show you guys all this clip and everything in a minute whenever I actually get it off. Well, I would have, but somewhere the clip shot out on me and I don't know where it went. Alright, well, we're not going to take up all day trying to find that clip, so I'll find it later. But anyways, there's a little U-shaped clip that slides down. It's got this little step on it. It sits inside the door. This sits inside it, and when you go to take the clip off, you got to pry that back and you'll see that clip in there. And then you can just grab something like this. You can go in there and grab the clip and pull it out. And every once in a while, it takes flight and goes into another dimension and you can't find it. But there it is. So after you do that, you got 2 screws and the armrest here that are usually stripped out or rounded off or rusted up where you can't get them or something, and then you end up fighting it. But these look pretty good. This one seems to be turning. I think it's coming out. Yeah, it is. Mind you, I might have already said this, but this is a 81 to 87 panel, which are pretty much all the same. Now 73, 74 has its own style panel. 75, 76, and maybe early 77 have its own type of panel. And then late 77, 78, 79, and 80 have its own type of panel. So they're all fairly similar, but a little bit different. So you're going to be looking for the same things either way. You usually got a screw right here at the back of the armrest. And we'll get it out. You got a screw up here where your door handle is. And then you got 4 screws across the bottom. You can use a screw gun or something to get these screws out, but if I had to guess, these door panels have probably never been off this truck, and I just don't want to take chances stripping out screws or breaking clips to where the screws get stuck in there or anything like that. It's easier to just take them out by hand. Okay, all the screws are out. Now there's going to be like a plastic Christmas tree clip back here and one up here. Pop that. Pop that. And then up here where the felt window strip is, kind of latches on there. So you gotta get that off of there. sometimes you gotta help it a little bit, especially if they haven't been off like ever, like this one. You don't want to just jerk on it because you can rip the door panel. I happen to know that because I've done it before. So if you can get in there, pry up on it, or something like that. Just pull it off the door handle. There it is. That gets our door panel off. Now we have access through this hole here, this hole here. Not a whole lot, but anything's better than nothing. So I'm gonna get this window rolled up, get this door set up somewhere we can work on it, and we'll get started with the repairs. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and pull this mirror off of here, get it out of the way. Judging by the fact that it's got a 4-letter F word stamped in the back of it, probably not gonna save it. Let's go over there in the scrap pile somewhere. I might just take it and throw it in a dumpster somewhere else because I don't know if I even want it here on the property. I'm just kidding. All trucks are created equal. No, not really. I don't have anything against any brands other. No, can't say that either. I just joking around. Don't want the mirror. Don't need the mirror. Got other mirrors. So now I'm going to go get a die grinder. We'll start cleaning up all these holes. Okay, so I already mentioned we're not really doing any body work and paint on this. My buddy that owns the truck wants to keep the, I don't even want to say patina because it's not just a patina, he wants to keep the character of the truck. I mentioned before, if you've seen the other videos on Waldo, this truck was bought brand new by his grandfather that owned a towing business, and it got used and used and used and used up until a couple years ago, and then it got parked. Loud semi, sorry. Then it got parked and it just sat, and now he's got it and he wants to get it going again just to have as kind of a family heirloom and a little toy and whatever else. So I got my little wizard wheel here, some 80 grit on it. I don't really need 80 grit. I could use 100 or even more, but I don't have any. So I'm going to very lightly go around and just right real close at the edge of all these holes. I don't want to take off any more paint than I have to. I just want to clean it up just enough that I can put some weld on it for now. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, so I don't know how well you guys can see this, but a lot of these holes are like pushed out of the metal where the mirror like got ripped off or the screws got too tight or the mirror was tight and it hit and pulled it. So I went ahead and ground them while they were sticking up because it was easier to get to them without getting any of the other paint around it. And then I got some that are real low spots. All this is real low. So now what I'm going to do is go get my hammer and dolly, and like I'll never get a dolly up here, but I can just take and kind of tap that back flat where it's supposed to be. And then when I go to weld it, I got as little ground off paint as possible. So wherever I ground off and where I weld and whatever else, we're going to grind it as smooth as we can without doing too much damage to the paint job that's on it. And then we're just going to let it surface rust, and it'll just blend in with all the other surface rust around here. So I'm going to go grab some tools, let my air compressor stop being loud and obnoxious, and then we'll start straightening some of this stuff out so we can keep working it. Alright, now, just like I told you with the grinder, I only wanted to go real close right around the hole. We want to do the same thing with the body hammer and the dolly, because the way this paint's all dried and old and everything else, if I just get in here with a dolly and a hammer and just start beating on this, chunks of paint are just going to fall off, which we don't want. So I'm going to go in there, I'm just going to tap them down nice and easy. Once again, he wants the character on the truck, so I'm not trying to get the body perfectly smooth or straight or anything like that. I'm just trying to get these back to where they're going to be the best after I get them cleaned up and welded. So we're going to go ahead and tap these down, tap some of this up, tap this down. I'll just work my way around, kind of get everything to where it needs to be to do what we need to do, and we'll go from there. There's no real actual method to doing this. Like, you just kind of gotta work it until you get your desired results. And right now, I can't get anything on the inside to hit this out to get it where I need it. So what I'm doing is I'm just taking screwdrivers and scrapers and whatever I can get in there. Oops. There's Red Hornets in there, and he's not happy. Well, we'll see if I get stung or not, but I'm pulling this out past where I need it, and then I can get the dolly back in there behind it, and just tap it back into where we want it to be. So. I'd really like to see that Hornet come out before I stick my arm back in there, but I'm probably not going to get that lucky. Oh, there he is. Come on, little fella. Alright, I'm going to see if I can't get him out of there before I start sticking my hand back in there, because I don't really want to get stung. Them red wasps are nasty. Alright, I've got the hardest one on both doors fixed. This one was by far the worst. It was really tore up and beat. This one's not that great. This one I got to get an insert out of. And none of the ones on the other door are this bad. But this door is starting to get a lot of heat in it from the welding that I've been doing. So I'm going to go ahead and let it cool off for a little bit. And then I'm going to go ahead and this hole here, and this hole here are going to be our mounts for our West Coast mirrors that we're putting on. So I'm either going to, I haven't decided which one yet, but I'm either going to take like a fender washer, put it on the inside of the door in all three holes, tack weld it on there and use that, or I'm going to cut a plate and put the three holes for the mirrors in, and I'm going to use it as like a backer or a washer on the back side of the door. I'm probably going to use that plate because that'll stiffen the door up here the most. So that's probably what I'll do, but for now I'm going to let this cool off a little bit. I'll come back, I'll keep welding on it, and once I get the rest of this all welded up, I'll bring you guys in here and I'll show you what I did. But I'm just going to keep doing the same process. Tacking, trying to keep heat out of the door to get all these holes welded up. So I'll get that done and I'll see you guys in a few minutes. I think I got all the welding done on this door. That's all welded up solid. I found a crack that went all the way across that I didn't notice before I started, but I also found a lot of other cracks I didn't notice before I started. This here was definitely the worst spot on either door. It welded up halfway decent, got all the excess holes welded up. You notice I left holes here. These are the holes that I'm using, but I haven't decided how I'm gonna mount them yet. I kinda wanna use nut zerts so that I can bolt them, you can bolt them and take them off and whatever. And like I mentioned before, I want to make that plate on the back that supports all three holes at the same time to stiffen the doors up. So I think I can pull one of the West Coast mirrors out and set it on my piece of metal and mark the holes. Then I can drill the holes in it, and then I can drill these holes in the doors where I welded them up out to the desired size. That's another reason I welded them up, because I could get the size hole that I needed and I could get a perfect clean hole again, since they were so blown out, for lack of better words. So I can make my plates. I'll have good holes in the doors, and then I should be able to run the nut zerts. I mean, the nut zerts will go through thicker metal. So if I use like some 16 or 18 gauge for my plate on the back, should be able to run the nut zerts through both and then clamp them down. And then that'll hold that backing plate on, and it'll make everything stiffer on the door so it won't rip out like it did before. So that should work good. Next step in the process, taking the wizard wheel with the 80 grit on it and grinding all those welds down smooth without doing too much damage to the paint. Like I said before, we're gonna hurt some paint. There's not a lot we can do about it, but we're trying to preserve as much as we can. So I'm gonna get the wizard wheel out there. We'll start buzzing some weld off and see what it looks like when we get done. all ground out as far as I'm going to. Like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. He wants the character on the truck. So we're gonna go ahead and leave it like it is. I ground it down. It's fairly smooth, bare metal, and we'll just let it surface rust and it'll blend in with the rest of the surface rust on the truck. So I got my West Coast mirrors out, and this is the lower bracket for the mirror. And the holes, once I drill them, will line up. So I need to go ahead and mark those. But also, I've got a piece of 16 gauge over here, and like I said, I'm gonna make a big oval piece, and I'll mark my holes there, and I'll cut that piece out, and then we'll get nut zerts and go through here into the piece that I put on the inside, nut zert it, and then we'll just run bolts from the outside into the nut zerts to hold those on. So that's the plan. I'm going to, I gotta mark the door where I need to drill, and I need to mark this plate. I'm gonna go ahead and cut 2 of them. So I only gotta do it once, and my blade on my bandsaw is broke, and I don't really know which one it takes to buy a new one. So ought to be interesting. I think the jigsaw will cut it, and we'll get that cut. We'll get our holes drilled in our door, and we'll be ready to start putting the mirror on. All right, I'm gonna take this and just try to line it up here the best I can. And mark this. So I go ahead, and that hole, I pretty much just need to round, you know, make round again. Put a hole there and a hole there. That'll be set for that. And then come over here on this. I'm gonna go ahead and mark these. Kind of make a rough spot. I'll measure those out better and make them a little bit more cleaner and uniform, but really I just need the plate inside the door. So we'll get those marked, get those drilled and cut out, and then we'll get the holes drilled in the door, and we will the holes drilled in the door, get the holes drilled in this, get it cut out, and then we'll be ready to start putting mirror brackets on that door. So hang tight. Okay, got my holes drilled. Would have filmed it for you guys, but I've got 1, 2, 3 big projects going on right now that parts are coming in for, and every corner of my shop is filled with parts, and I barely had room to get to my vise to hold this to drill. Definitely didn't have room to bring a camera in there too. So I need to get it cleaned up, but I got work I need to get done, so it is what it is. So I'm measuring from center of hole to center of hole, which is about 2.5 inches. So about 1.25 inches will be halfway. I don't know how the heck I did that, but they're not 2.5. Well, there. I didn't get them very well centered, so either way, I'm marking the center. I'm going to draw a line I'll cut it, and then center of that. Mark this. I'm going to go and get a straight edge, mark those lines, and then we'll get the jigsaw out here and start cutting. Well, it's the next morning. I had a lot of people stop by yesterday and a lot of distractions, but that's okay, things happen. Set the goal to get this project done yesterday and today, so I still got all day today to get it done, and we're gonna do it. But I had my son stop over yesterday afternoon to help me. I couldn't reach in the door and hold my backing plate on the back of the door and get my nut zerks through the front of the door. So I called my son, he came over and I held the plate in there and he ran the nut zert tool, and then he kind of hung out for a little bit while he was waiting to go to his football workout. So I kept working while he was hanging out, but I wasn't filming. So I just about got this passenger door done, so I'll show it to you in a second. But I'm gonna go ahead and burn through the driver door to get it to the same point that we were at when I left off filming on the passenger door. And then I'll pick back up filming and show you the rest of the process I did to get the mirrors on. But I was hanging out talking to my son. It doesn't happen very often, and I just kept working, and that's what happened. So either way, we'll get back to the same spot on the other door. We'll go through it all. But here's this door. I had to go get new bolts last night, so all those bolts will match. And I changed them out. I just got them on there for that. Upper brackets on, not tight. Lower brackets all on, mostly tight. And then all I got left to do is just put the mirror in there. So that's coming along. This door turned out pretty good. Once you got the mirror brackets and stuff on, you don't see a lot of the repair that I made. It'll just be a little bit. And then on this other door, it's just got two little holes down here, two little holes up here. I have to fix that hole because I need it for the upper bracket, and then fix those three, and we'll make them work right. So it's coming along. I'm gonna move this door, put that door against the stand, drag the welder out here, get to working on fixing that. And once I get back to where I left off on this door, we'll pick back up and keep going. Okay, I got all my holes ground down, cleaned up, and then I took a stepper bit and went back through and basically just made the holes clean and round again. Now I got rib nuts. I shouldn't say I can't. I was gonna put the bracing on the back of the door. I can't get in there to hold it and put the rib nuts in through it at the same time. And with all the weld and heat that I put in the door, it's super stiff. I mean, it's stronger than it was from the factory. So I'm gonna just put the rib nuts in it. We'll mount the mirrors on it, and if it breaks out or has any problems again down the road, then we'll go back through and fix it a different way. But I don't think it's going to go anywhere. It's pretty stout. So for those of you that don't know what I'm doing right now, these rib nuts are pretty cool. It's just this deal right here. It's threaded on the inside. You probably can't see that, but and you got this tool here that's threaded. You just take this, it's basically like a big rivet gun. You screw that down on there all the way, push it flat down in the hole, squeeze it all the way in, make sure it's tight, Then you unscrew the tool back out of it, and you got a threaded insert in whatever you want it in. I mean, you can put it in frame rails, sheet metal, doors, fenders, anywhere you want. I use them all the time, they work awesome. But that's what we're doing, just 2 more to put in, and then we'll be ready to hang our mirror. I'm not putting the mirrors on until I get the doors hung back on the truck, because I'm not saying anything's gonna happen, but heaven forbid I drop the door or something. The bracket's not really gonna get hurt. I don't wanna take a chance of breaking the mirror. I doubt I'll drop the door, but you never know. So we'll get the brackets on, and then we'll hang the doors back on the truck, and once we get the doors back on the truck, then we'll put the mirrors on. Alright, those are in. This door is all welded up, ground down, ready to bolt the bracket on. Like I said, I think I said this earlier in the video, but this truck had West Coast mirrors on it before, so it's already got the holes up at the top of the door here. So don't have to do anything up there, but yeah, ready for mirrors. All right, like I mentioned in the video yesterday, these West Coast mirrors came from a subscriber. I mentioned that I wanted some for Pennywise, my dually, one time, and they got a hold of me and said, hey, I got some, I'll send them to you. And they sent them to me, so I never ended up getting them on Pennywise. The person that owns this truck wanted a set, and it had West Coast mirrors before. And Pennywise is a way off from getting any love because I just got so much going on. But they were given to me. I paid it forward. I'm giving them to him because that's the right thing to do. But when he sent them to me, they take special bolts at the top where they bolt down for the top of the mirror, and he could only find 3 of them instead of 6. So I'm just going to show you guys. You hopefully can see here. It's like a real flat, T-piece down in there, and then it just goes through and a nut goes on the outside. Well, he only had 3 of them, and you need those to put the mirrors on. So my option is I've got just a regular 1/4 bolt. I've got a bench grinder and a belt sander, and we're gonna see what we can do to make this look like that stud on that mirror over there that I showed you. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to knock these out, catch up with you guys when I get done and see how good a job I did. Well, I got them done. Not gonna say they're an exact replica, but I think they'll do the job. Slide right through like that. A little flat T-part sits on the back. I know these are really long, but these are the only length, or the shortest length of 1/4-20s that I had. So I'm just gonna go ahead and bolt the mirror frame on, and then I'll cut them off wherever they need to be cut off. So I'm waiting. My buddy was going to town, and I needed a couple bolts and some nuts to finish mounting these mirrors. And whenever I go to town, I ask him if he needs anything. Whenever he goes to town, he asks me if I need anything, because there's no point in both of us driving 30 miles to go do something if the other one's going. So he told me he was going. I told him I needed the stuff. He's not back yet, so I'm waiting, but still saved me, you know, 40, 50, 60, I don't know, however, a lot of miles round trip, not having to do it. But there's other work that needs to be done on the tow truck. So we've got cap, rotor, plugs, wires, oil filter, temp sending unit, thermostat, air filter, water pump, fuel pump. Does it need all this stuff? No. But he bought it all and he wants it changed. So that's what we're gonna do. Got a radiator sitting up there for it, the top one. Does it need a radiator? I don't think so. The one in there is not leaking, but he wants a new radiator, so we're gonna change it. So while we're waiting for parts, that's what we're gonna do. Get in here. I'll mark where they got number 1 on the cap, on that cap. Pull that cap out, set it off to the side, and I'll strip everything else that we got to change out of here. And then we'll start going back in with the new parts. So should be fun. We'll start that now. Bring you guys in here, show you what I got going on. And I wanted to show you, this is an 8182. It's got the parking lights down in the bumper. Not sure which year, I haven't even looked, but this thing is complete. Like, you don't find them like this very often, where they haven't been hacked and modified and all that. Like, it's still got the spark box on the valve cover. And another thing, I've never seen one that was wired for dual alternators. And this is all factory. This is all clipped on factory spots on the valve covers with the tie-ups for the spark plug wires, all that. And you can tell here, they eliminated one of the alternators, because this should be the charge wire for one and this should be the charge wire for the other. And they just made one an exciter and kept one a charge wire. But it still has all the original heat riser choke, still all hooked up, still in good shape. None of it's beat up. I mean, this thing, the power steering pump's missing, but I knew that. They robbed it for another truck and they brought me another power steering pump, but I got to figure out brackets for it, so that shouldn't be no big deal. But I just couldn't believe how complete this thing is for being a tow truck that was used for a lot of years as a tow truck. A lot of times there's a lot of roadside repairs and stuff like that, but this thing is complete and in pretty good shape, honestly. I mean, I'm sure that motor's had its work, but still runs good and everything's there. So I just wanted to show you guys. It looks like it probably had a tune-up not long before it was parked. These are sooted up. They're not wet, they're just sooted up. And that's probably because I was pouring cupfuls of gas in the carburetor to try to get it to start. So that's, and they all look the same. None of them are really wet. They all look pretty good. And this rotor, you see that right there? Can you see that? Made in USA. You don't catch that very often, but it doesn't even hardly look like it's ran on that rotor. It's clean. Cap, same way, no wear. Everything looks good. So it probably had a tune-up shortly before it was parked. Spark plugs, I'm gonna add to my trophy making pile. Cap and rotor and all that, I'm probably gonna hang on to, because if we do a will it run, or I got an old motor that I need to see if it's any good or whatever, and it's got a junk cap and rotor and stuff on it, I'll have a spare one laying around that I can use to just to try out, you know what I mean? So I'm not going and spending a bunch of money on something not knowing anything about it. So it's good to have stuff like that. I've already got piles of stuff like that, but you find good stuff, you kind of hang on to it. So ignition system is all tore out. I know there's coolant in the radiator, so I'm gonna go get a drain pan over there and drain that. And once I get that radiator drained, I'll pull the hoses on the radiator and the fans and all that, because I got to change the water pump. And then we can start going back together with all this stuff. I want to bring you guys out here, show you something real quick. This isn't the first time I've seen it, but you don't see it very often. Building crystals in the thermostat housing, which means that junk's probably all through the radiator and in the block and everything else. So now I can say it's not necessarily a bad thing that we're changing the water pump and the radiator and all that. So I was gonna do it anyways because he wanted it done, and that's what I do. But yeah, you don't see it all crystallized and growing in there like that very often. So let me get back to it. All right, as you should have seen in the time lapse, I got everything stripped down and I only had one issue. One of the two bolts broke off in the intake for the thermostat housing, and it's pretty common. I've had a lot of them break off. I felt it getting tight and I tried to, no excuses, no whatever, it broke. I've trying to get it out. I've got it drilled all the way through. I've got Croil soaked all the way through. I've heated it up. I've put easy outs on it. I have somewhere I have to be home at a certain time today to watch my daughter, because my wife has to take my other kids to the doctor. So I'm gonna go ahead and start slapping this back together to finish this video today. Whoa, that's one of them nasty red wasps. They sting. Anyway, sorry. I have to be home at 2 o'clock. It's 20 minutes to 1. So I'm gonna try to get as much of this done and get the mirrors and the doors done just to finish off this video today. So I'm gonna stop talking, put the camera down, get to work, see how far we can get. All right, of course, as soon as I turn the camera on, it gets windy. But anyways, here we are trying to get this back together. So basically gonna go in reverse of what I did taking it apart. I get this fuel pump stuff down in here. And this is what happens when you start trying to rush. Nothing goes right. So there's no need to rush. Whatever we don't get done today, we'll get done another day. I just need to slow down and do it. It ain't gonna do no good to rush it and fight it and have to come back later and do it again and all that crap. So okay, fuel pumps most of the way back in. I'm gonna take the fuel line off at the carburetor here because it's a lot easier to manipulate it up here to get it to go in than it is down there. So popping this off real quick because it's not, the orientation on the new fuel pump's not identical to the old one. It's close, but not identical, so it's easier to fight it up here than fight it down there. That, and I want to pull this housing off here to see if it still has a filter in it or not, because if it does, we want to change it. I know I said I want to pull that off and check it, but I got the bottom started, and I'm just going to restart this to make sure that everything's going to be okay the way it is. I'm not going to tighten it up. I'm just going to restart it, and then later on, when I got more time and I check that filter, then we'll tighten it down and whatnot. But for now, that's all I need to do. Alright, that's done. We can put our fuel hoses on later because we still got to flush all those lines and the tank and all that stuff. So I have to take my little deal that holds the fuel pump in out. The fuel pump rod holds it up. I got it in there. Alright, fuel pump's back in. Clean up the block here for the water pump. Alright. Alright. I'm going to have to take the hose connector out of the old water pump and put it in here. But he's getting me new radiator hoses and stuff anyways. So there's no rush to get that in right this second. So I'm going to go ahead and get this water pump stabbed in here. I don't use a lot of silicone, I've told you guys that before. But on these water pumps, they got this bypass down here at the bottom. And it's not really the greatest design. So I always try to put just a little bit on there just to mainly just to hold the gaskets and help with that bypass. So just a tiny little bit, not even enough for it to squish out when you tighten the bolts up. Stick that on there. Alright. Water pump's back on. Now, as I've been doing this, I've been sitting here thinking about it, and the purpose of this video was fixing the doors and putting the mirrors on. So, rather than continuing doing this and possibly not getting back to the doors and the mirrors, I'm going to go ahead and go finish up the doors, or get the mirrors installed, go ahead and get the doors back on, and then if we still got a little bit of time before I have to leave, we'll come back and work on this some more. But main important thing right now is the doors, so that's what we're going to do, and see how fast the old man can work. Okay, back on the doors. Get all these brackets thrown on real quick. And the holes don't line up. Move them over a little bit, and those two line up, so I only got to move the middle one over a little. No big deal. I'll be right back. Okay, I ground that hole out a little bit so it fit. And I may have forgot to turn the camera back on. Or maybe my camera guy forgot to do his job. Which is me. Alright, my time is running out fast, like really fast. And go ahead and get this mirror slammed on really quick. If anybody's ever put these on before, you'll know that these brackets are kind of a pain in the butt. And best way I found to do it is just put a vice grip on there, pinch them down together, and then it makes life a lot easier. We'll do the same thing up here. Pinch this down. I'm gonna have to find some more washers for these, but because a couple of them are missing, but for the time being, you get the point. I still got a long ways to go on this truck, and I got a feeling more is just gonna keep getting added to it. So we'll have plenty of time to fix these mirrors. Like so. And there she is. Alright. The doors are repaired. The mirrors are on. It's 1:58 and I have to be home at 2 o'clock. If you're good at math, not likely. Luckily, I only live a couple minutes away and I'll be fine. But I want to finish this up. I want to show you guys. Got the doors, even though I didn't have time, I took my time and aligned them. They're lined up perfect, better than they were before. We got our West Coast mirrors that he wanted on there. And I didn't paint them or anything like that because once again, we want to keep the used but loved look on the truck. So we got that. There's the other mirror. This door's lined up perfect. I like it. I've told you guys before, I'm a huge fan of West Coast mirrors on dualies. Have to be dualies. They have to be big, used work trucks, and I like it. So I'm not gonna end this video right here. We're gonna end it at the shop right here, but I'm going to push everything I can inside so I can shut and lock the doors. I'm gonna haul butt to my house, and then I'm going to do the random comment generator and find out who the winner of the shirt from last video is. And don't forget, in case I forget to mention it again, we're doing the same thing on this video. Leave a comment, make sure you're subscribed, hit the like button. That's all you got to do. I don't care if you go in the comment and say hi. I don't care if you say your content sucks, stop doing YouTube. Doesn't matter. Hell, I could get a comment that says we hate you, don't do YouTube anymore. And if that's the one the random generator picks, you're gonna win a shirt. So do whatever you wanna do, just do it for me. I'm gonna hurry up and get locked up, get to the house. I'll be back in just a second to tell you who won that t-shirt. All right, made it home. Power was out. And an hour and a half later, I finally got back to where I could do stuff. Anyways, did the random comment generator, and the winner of the t-shirt from the first t-shirt giveaway is Earl Heiser. Sorry if I said your name wrong, but you are the winner. Send me an email, which is in the description of the video, or send me a message on Instagram, Facebook, whatever, if you're on any of those. Give me your size and your address, and I'll get one sent out to you. If you didn't win, don't be discouraged. I'm doing another giveaway on this video. So make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you leave a comment. Make sure you're subscribed. If it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be able to do this. Y'all have a good one. We'll see you next time.